you yourselves, privately into an isolated place and rest up a little. Mark 6:30-31. They board a boat, probably near Capernaum, and head for an out-of-the-way place east of the Jordan River beyond Bethsaida. Many people, however, see them leave, and others learn about it. Together they run along the shore and are there when the boat lands. Leaving the boat, Jesus sees the crowd and is moved with pity, for they are as sheep without a shepherd. So he starts to teach them many things about the kingdom. Mark 6:34. He also heals those needing a cure. Luke 9:11. As time passes, the disciples say to him, "The place is isolated and the hour is already late. Send the crowds away, so that they may go into the villages and buy themselves food." Matthew 14:15. Jesus replies, "They do not have to leave. You give them something to eat." Matthew 14:16. Although Jesus already knows what he is going to do, he tests Philip with the question, "Where will we buy bread for these people to eat?" Philip is the one to ask, for he is from nearby Bethsaida. Still, buying bread is not the solution. There are about 5,000 men. And the total may be double that, counting women and children. Philip responds, 200 denarii. A denarius is a day's wage worth of bread is not enough for each of them to get even a little. John 6:5-7. Perhaps to show the impossibility of feeding them all, Andrew comments, "Here is a little boy who has 5 barley loaves and 2 small fish. But what are these among so many?" John 6:9. It is springtime, just before the Passover of 32 CE, and green grass covers the hillside. Jesus has his disciples tell the people to recline on the grass in groups of 50 and of 100. He takes the 5 loaves and 2 fish and gives thanks to God. Then he breaks the loaves and divides up the fish. Jesus gives these to the disciples to distribute to the people. Amazingly, all the people eat until they are satisfied. Later, Jesus tells his disciples, "Gather together the fragments left over, so that nothing is wasted." John 6:12. They are able to fill 12 baskets with the leftovers gathered, feeding thousands with a few loaves and fish. Matthew 14:13-21. Mark 6:30-44. Luke 9:10-17. John 6:1-13. 128. Jesus feeds 5,000 men. Why does Jesus seek a place of privacy for his apostles? Where do Jesus and the disciples go, and what do they encounter there? What do the disciples urge Jesus to do, but how does he care for the people? 52-129. A ruler who can control the elements. Matthew 14:22-36. Mark 6:45-56. John 6:14-25. Jesus' miraculous ability to feed thousands has a strong impact on the people. They conclude that this really is the prophet who was to come into the world, the Messiah, and that he certainly would make a desirable ruler. John 6:14. Deuteronomy 18:18. So the people plan to seize Jesus and make him king. Jesus, however, realizes what the people are planning. He dismisses the crowds and instructs his disciples to get back in their boat. Their route and destination. They are to head towards Bethsaida and then on to Capernaum. As for Jesus himself, he withdraws to the mountain to pray alone that night. In the light of the moon shortly before dawn, Jesus observes the boat from a distance. The waves of the sea are being whipped up by a strong wind, and the apostles are struggling to row, for the wind is against them. Mark 6:48. Jesus descends from the mountain and begins walking over the waves toward them. By now they had rowed about 3 or 4 miles. John 6:19. The disciples observe Jesus seeming to pass by them, and they cry out in fear. It is an apparition. Mark 6:49. Jesus comfortingly responds, "Take courage. It is I, do not be afraid." But Peter says, "Lord, if it is you, command me to come to you over the waters." Jesus answers, "Come." At that, Peter gets out of the boat and actually walks on water toward Jesus.